We have a crazy story. We have a crazy story from the Associated Press. This was wild and extremely shocking when I first saw this news. It says here, court papers say suspect in embassy killings declared, "I did it for Palestine, I did it for Gaza." Now, if you're not familiar with this story, a terrorist, I think a pro-Palestinian terrorist, went and assassinated 2 employees who worked at the Israeli embassy. They were just standing outside. I don't know that they did anything necessarily, but this terrorist went and killed them and then said, "Free Palestine," and like Intifada now or something like that. I think it's in the article here. Yeah, here we go. We can read more about it here. The man accused of fatally shooting 2 staff members of the Israeli embassy in Washington outside a Jewish museum told police after his arrest, quote, "I did it for Palestine, I did it for Gaza." I mean, which, first of all, bravo, because, you know, Gaza's free now, right? Palestine's free. You did it, man. Like, ridiculous. For those of you, you know, lacking a sense of humor, I am not being serious there. What did he think this was going to do? Did he really think that this was going to free Gaza or free Palestine? I will say, maybe this guy thought that this would inspire people to go out and do more acts of terrorism and kill more Jews, which would pressure Israel to back off somehow. I feel like, you know, these types of actions only make Israel more aggressive rather than less aggressive. But hey, I mean, I'm not going to accuse terrorists of being the most rational people alive. So, you know, so excuse me if I'm not spending a whole lot of time trying to rationalize this guy's point of view. But like, this was a very, very, first of all, tragic thing to do, right? 2 people lost their lives, but also a very dumb thing to do strategically. This is not anything that's going to further the Palestinian cause in any sort of way. But yeah, it says here, Elias Rodriguez, 31, shouted "Free Palestine" as he was led away after his arrest, according to charging documents that provided chilling new details of the Wednesday night shootings in the nation's capital that killed an American woman and an Israeli man who had just left an event at the museum. Okay, so it's 1 American and 1 Israeli person. They were set to become engaged. That's sad. The stunning attack prompted Israeli missions to beef up their security and lower their flags to half staff. It came as Israel pursues another major offensive in the Gaza Strip in the war with Hamas that has heightened tensions across the Middle East and internationally, and that law enforcement officials have repeatedly warned could inspire violence in the U.S. I think it's interesting that they include this in the article, right? Talking about what's going on with Israel and Hamas. I think it's sort of fair. It's current events, but don't make no mistake. This does not legitimize the act of terror that we have just witnessed. This does not legitimize it in any way. Just because, you know, Israel is attacking Hamas, right, and making Hamas lose the war that they started, right, through, you know, we can question the means by which they're doing it, but at the end of the day, this is a war and Israel's winning, and people are mad that Israel's winning, but they are winning. This is how wars go. Usually there's a winning side and a losing side, and Hamas ends up being the losers. I hate terrorism. Terrorism is awful. They're attacking employees who are low level, by the way, low level employees, for the actions that they have nothing to do with. This is just despicable, and this is horrific. Says here, Rodriguez faces charges of murder of foreign officials and other crimes that did not enter a plea during a perfunctory court appearance. Additional charges are likely, prosecutors said, as authorities continue to investigate the killings as both a hate crime against the Jewish community and terrorism. Now, that's an interesting point. I don't know how racist this Rodriguez person is. There certainly is some anti-Semitism within the pro-Palestinian movement, but that doesn't necessarily mean that everyone inside that movement is anti-Semitic. Now, if you are, going to go so far as to, like murder a Jew outside the Israeli embassy, that may signal some anti-Semitism, it just might. So there is a chance that this guy's actually anti-Semitic, but I don't know specifically. Violence against anyone based on their religion is an act of cowardice. It is not an act of a hero, said Janine Pirro. Religion? What's the religion called? Israel? I don't know exactly what Janine is referring to here. Anti-Semitism will not be tolerated, especially in the nation's capital. Again, I do want to clarify, and I'm pro-Israel to an extent, but not sure. We don't have proof that this is anti-Semitism. There's a chance for sure, but no proof yet. You know, I would rather go through like what's been going on with the suspect. I'd rather go through the suspect, because I think that we do need to talk about, you know, why it is that people are going out and killing folks who are working for Israel. Because let's be honest, this is not going to be the first time that somebody goes and murders an employee of Israel, a federal employee of their government. I feel like this is most likely going to happen again. I'm glad that they're beefing up security. But yeah, no, I think that maybe they'll put this terrorist under the ground, but still, the problem with an ideology like, you know, radical pro-Palestinian support is that you're going to consider yourself a martyr the stronger that you're punished. And if the state goes lenient on you, then it's going to go out and do more terrorism and kill more people. So it's sort of like a catch-22. It's very difficult to defeat terrorist movements like this, or pro-terrorist movements like this. And this is why it's been so hard to get rid of terrorists in the Middle East, is because they have developed a martyr complex for themselves. So if you go and kill a bunch of them, then others look at them and say, oh wow, they were right? You know, it's like the banks closing Kanye West's account. It's like, you know, he's over here like, oh, the Jews are out to get me, and then he loses access to his bank account. It's like, so he feels somewhat vindicated in his belief, even though he's wrong. When you create a martyr complex inside your ideology, then, you know, that sort of like almost makes your movement invincible, unless you could kill all the members and then prevent other people from like starting the movement back up, of course. But anyways, let's go through the article. It says here, after the shooting, the suspect went inside the museum and stated that he, quote, did it. He was no longer armed by the time he was taken into custody, according to the affidavit. I did it for Palestine. I did it for Gaza. I am unarmed, he spontaneously said. He also told detectives that he admired an active duty Air Force member who set himself on fire outside of the Israeli embassy in February 2024, describing the man as courageous and a martyr, court documents said. Oh my. I did not know that. Investigators said they were still working to corroborate the authenticity of writings purported to be authored by Rodriguez, an apparent reference to a document circulated online that expressed outrage over Israel's conduct in the war. The FBI is also contacting associates, family members, and co-workers. Rodriguez appeared in federal court in Washington in a white jail suit and listened impassively as the charges and possible punishments, which include the death penalty, were read at a home listed in public records for Rodriguez's mother in suburban Chicago. A sign taped on the door Thursday afternoon asked for privacy. Oh yeah, and that's gonna be rough too. If you're the parent of someone like this, and you've got no relation to the ideology, maybe you completely disagree with it. You know, a lot of times when people have radical ideologies, they are diametrically opposed to those of their parents. It's very common. So I would not be shocked if, you know, this terrorist mother is absolutely horrified and is like doomed for the rest of her life to being linked to this specific action that she strongly disagrees with. That has to be rough. What else is here? It says, the shooting followed the Jewish advocacy group's annual Young Diplomats reception at the museum, which the couple had attended. Yoni Kalin and Katie Kalisher were inside the museum when they heard gunshots, and a man came inside looking distressed. Kalin said people came to his aid and brought him water, thinking he needed help, without realizing he was the suspect. When police arrived, he pulled out a red keffiyeh, the Palestinian headscarf, and repeatedly yelled, "Free Palestine." This event was about humanitarian aid, Callan said. How can we actually help both the people in Gaza and the people in Israel? How can we bring together Muslims and Jews and Christians to work together to actually help innocent people? And then here he is just murdering 2 people in cold blood. Now, of course, when you've got a situation like this, the most obvious question is, well, how do you keep these things from happening again in the future? And honestly, I would say it's very, very difficult. Now, I think that there is a general rule in the United States of America. I think it's even legal that says you're not allowed to support, foreign terror organizations, right? So this would include Hamas. Like, you can't run around saying, I support Hamas, or you should join Hamas, or Hamas should be supported. Hamas is a good group, yada, yada. I could be wrong, right? I actually should probably look up the law, but maybe a little bit soft here. I believe that is the law in the United States of America. There also already are anti-BDS laws, which I disagree with, because I think that violates the First Amendment. But those laws kind of limit the ways in which people can pressure others to join the BDS movement, which I think is called the Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions movement, which is another radical movement, which says don't buy any products that have anything to do with Israel, whether that be sourcing materials from there, or companies that operate there, or companies that get money over there and resources to Israel. If you're associated with Israel at all, basically don't buy anything from them. I think that the BDS movement, that is not the type of thing that leads to assassinations. But you know what does lead to assassinations? People justifying killing people over political differences. Now, we've seen this a lot in the United States of America. And the big excuse that you will see in far left discourse is, it's not politics, it's ethics. Well, I've got news for you. The two are intertwined. You can't talk about politics without talking about ethics, right? This could go from anything to, acts of terrorism, violating the Geneva Conventions, to which taxes are just. That's all ethics. So the excuse that's often given that, this is about ethics, this is not about politics, is an argument that is very, very thin, and it's used to excuse extremist language towards certain groups. And it's also easy it's easy for the left, because they have for years been saying, punch Nazis, attack them, assault them, and if you don't have the heart to murder a Nazi, then you must not be a compassionate, empathetic human being, right? Like, that's literally the rhetoric that you will hear from the far left. And that rhetoric has just been breeding and growing underneath, sort of as a political undercurrent, not in the mainstream, but it has been there for years now. And so they've been saying that to anyone that they have analogized to Nazi Germany. So, if MAGA people, they'll be like, yeah, no, go attack them because they are all Nazis, right? And now with how Israel has been accused of committing a genocide in Gaza, which I think actually might be true. I'll need to look into the facts of that, because it's been several months since I've sort of like brushed up on everything that's been happening in the Israel-Hamas war. But this is very possible that Israel is actually doing a genocide in Gaza. But they're saying because of that, then Israel is just like Nazi Germany, which is actually kind of funny. It's like, because the one thing that Nazi Germany was known for is having a lot of Jews in the military and having a lot of Jews in the government. That's one of the things they were known for the most. But yeah, so they've analogized Israel with Nazi Germany. And so now that sort of opens up the floodgates in their Overton window, where it's like, okay, these people are punchable now. These people are attackable now. These people are murderable now. And they deserve it because they are working for Israel. This is just awful. This is just terrible. And we really need to turn down the temperature of rhetoric in the United States of America. It's very funny. It's very funny because there are some people who were saying stuff like this, right? Oh, we need to turn down the temperature of rhetoric when Donald Trump got shot. But then what happened? They did not turn down the temperature at all. The temperature has been the same. The thermostat has remained unmoved, unfortunately. And so now here we are. We've got radicals online spewing anti-Israel hate and in some cases anti-Semitic hate. We've actually got this one person who is loudly out here supporting terrorist organizations. I'll be reacting to him in a moment. And it's all going mostly unopposed. Now, of course, there's a loud reaction from people saying, oh, this is bad. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about systemically, like the platforms who claim to care about hate speech, not getting rid of these people. We've got no one pressing charges against these folks when they are claiming to support terrorist organizations, or just, proclaiming that these terrorist organizations are good. And we've got the radicals who, when they are breaking the law in other ways, such as by obstructing the roads, destroying property, breaking and entering, they are not getting charged. Now, to Donald Trump's credit, for those who are participating in insurrection-style riots at universities, those folks who were not citizens did end up getting deported, I think, which is a good step in the right direction. But that alone is not going to be enough to stem this this wave of hateful rhetoric, especially because the majority of citizens, the majority of students in American colleges are not non-citizens. So there's that as well. But I don't entirely know how you stop this, because we have free speech, and free speech should not be infringed. I'm not saying that, we need a ton of censorship. I do think that the people who say they claim about hate speech should actually act like it and get rid of some of these people. But if you're a free speech zone, or you say that you care about all opinions, then don't ban these people. Don't ban these people. But it certainly helps to have more voices out there loudly opposing the folks who are the leaders of these movements, the leaders of these organizations. It's very, very unfortunate and very, very sad. But hopefully this is not something that spreads. Maybe if they put this guy under the jail, other people are going to be like, you know what, I don't really want to do this. I don't want to be a copycat. But I'm a little bit worried, because school shootings it used to not be that common. But then one or two people did it, and now we've got copycats. And now it's just like an idea that people have when they're feeling bad enough. Like, I don't know what is going to happen here, but we'll see. We'll see. One can hope for sure that there are no copycats, and also if they're upping security, then maybe it'll be a lot more impossible or implausible or practical for someone to pull off something like this in the future. But at the end of the day, 2 people were assassinated and murdered for something that they had minimal involvement with. These are just government employees. They're not setting the foreign policy of the state of Israel. So, thoughts and prayers are definitely directed towards the families, and I hope that they're able to heal from this heinous act. Especially the friends of family. Probably didn't choose to be parts of the Israel government, and they might even oppose the Israeli government. So extremely unfair to them, and unfortunate that this crazed lunatic has sort of disrupted and disturbed these folks' lives in this way.